I also thought it'd be interesting for you guys to see just a few of the things that I've been doing this last year with schooling and with work in regards to conservation. So one of my idols that I look up to would be Theodore Roosevelt, because after the era of abundance, people started to realize that our natural resources weren't as unlimited as we had originally thought, and he was one of the men, the president, to start creating programs where we can start conserving and saving and preparing for the future. And he also helped with the development of the U.S. Forest Service. He's a big part of that. So a year ago this month, I actually got engaged, and you can see in the picture on the left, I used elk shed, and I had carved in it with the Dremel asking my wife to marry me. And then, so I went out and hid in the woods, and then we were out camping kind of, and I said, hey, I got a really good spot, we should go look for elk sheds. And she didn't have a clue, but I told her to look off to the left of the four-wheeler, I was going to look off to the right, and she spotted a shed pretty quick after that, and she was excited when she picked it up. I was pretty excited too. And then we got married a few months later. I knew she was a girl for me too, because she agreed for our honeymoon to go to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and then to Alaska salmon fishing. And anyone that knows me well knows that I love collecting shed antlers, so Jackson Hole was just like a dream come true, especially with the right girl. Last summer, I worked down in Dugway, Utah, which is in central Utah on a military base, as a wildlife technician. And in this picture, we are monitoring kestrels that we had in artificial nest boxes, and we actually had a pretty good success rate. About 7 out of the 10 nest boxes that we put up had kestrels in them that were having babies, so we'd go around and monitor them and put little trackers on them so we could see how they do as they grow up. Here's a baby golden eagle, and for this one, in order to put a tracker on it, we had to have a guy come out and rappel down to the nest, and then in order to capture an adult eagle, they were going to do it this summer, but they have these these net guns that they shoot out. But the eagles are so smart, if you just put one out in the landscape where they perch, they're not going to return to it. But you have to reconstruct models that are similar to it out a year or two ahead of time, and then when an eagle does come, they'll be used to it, and then you actually have the real net gun, and you can capture them that way for studying them. A large part of my summer we spent putting these traps up. They're pitfall traps for small mammals, and we put them up around the springs and monitor the mammals that were in the area. And we saw hundreds of wild horses, and they get kind of mad when we come up there and we're messing with their springs, because that's kind of like where they like to hang out. As you can see, there's not very many trees or much moisture in this area, and that's part of why the horses love the springs so much. Here's some baby burrowing owls that we were monitoring for a few weeks. We also had artificial nests set up for them, and then the burrowing owls had a pretty good success at coming in and doing the nest. It's kind of nice to burrowing owls. They never judged us if we never did our hair to go out and study them or anything. They kind of looked at us funny though. Most of my summer though was actually spent tracking rattlesnakes. You should have seen my mom's face when I told her that. So we had transmitters put in them, and then we'd go out with telemetry equipment twice a week and track them down and find out where they were. And then over the whole summer, we could see their movements. During the school year, I work for BYU, that's where I'm going to school, in wildlife and wildlands conservation. And we go out and we collect these radio collars for the deer and the elk that are put on. And then whenever a deer or elk there's predation on them, we go out and we retrieve the collar, because they cost about $1,200. And then we have to survey the site and make a prediction of what killed it. And this one, I was actually lucky enough, there's this elk shed sitting right next to the collar. That really made my day. It might not work, but that's okay. Let's see. So earlier about the middle of this semester, I also helped out with deer captures So we'd go out, the helicopters would go recapture, for this study it was female mule deer, and then they'd bring them back in, and they were actually mule deer that we caught before, this year before, and then we got to measure the back fat on them, and do a bunch of other tests on them, and see how they were doing this year compared to last year. And then we let them go, and these transmitters that we had on them, they'll send us information about where the deer are going and some about their activities. So far this summer, we've been tracking sage grouse up in Strawberry Reservoir, which is in central Utah. And we'll stay out till 3 o'clock in the morning some night with a big light, and we spotlight the sage grouse, and then one of us will come up with a net and we'll try to catch it. And we'll be pretty happy if we catch 1 or 2 in a night. Sometimes it's not as successful because they're harder to find and they're pretty smart birds. And then we'll also go out, and right now this time of year they're nesting, and we'll go find their nest and see if the baby's hatched or something got to them before we were able to find them. Here's just a few pictures of what I do on my weekends. You can tell from the picture one in from the right. I know my wife loves me because she lets me keep them in our living room. I imagine in a few more years the TV show Hoarders is probably going to call me up and want to do a video on my apartment. There's going to be too many. What I really love though about growing up on a tree farm in northeastern Washington was that whenever we come home on a vacation from school, we've been tired of studying or sitting down at the library too long, there's always something to go out and do. And the top left picture, I was helping my dad trim some trees, do some thinning, and we trimmed for a few weeks, and then rented a chipper, and we'd chip them all up and spread them back out where he pulled the trees from. And the bottom left, he saved me a big burn pile to burn over the winter time. And then just a few days ago, we were planting our pond with some rainbow trout. That's fun. Another part I like about farm forestry is a legacy that can be passed on to the next generation. So my dad got these, or my parents got these legacy trees, little plaques that we put up on our tree, and we each get a tree, all his kids and his grandkids, and we'll go put them up throughout the property. I put mine on one of my favorite little hunting trees, and my wife put hers up on a tree close by. Right now we, actually through the Washington Farm Forestry Association, we found out about grants, and one of these was from the NRCS, where we can go through and we can thin our property out when the trees were getting overgrown or is getting too risky for fire. So this is a year or two afterwards. The masticator had came through, and then it just looked so much better. Actually, I wish I had a picture before, but the trees were overpopulated and it was too thick and the brush was getting really tall. But once again though, I'd just like to thank the Fort Blakely Tree Farm for starting the scholarship, and everyone else that's helped out, but especially the Stinson family and the legacy that they have. Thank you.